G'day mate, how you going? Going to be doing the freshwater tackle run through. Going to be going through all the rods, everything, lures, line, leaders, even bait, what I recommend using. Let's get stuck into it. So we'll start off with the rods. I'll start off with the spinning outfit. So my go-to spinning outfit is my 1 to 3 kilo sped up with a Daiwa Ed LT 2000 that's just got 8 pound braid on it. So this rod is just the Daiwa infeet. It's 2-piece, but it's 2-piece from the butt, so the whole blank stays intact, and then when you want to just make it a bit smaller, like 2 pieces from the butt section. So this Daiwa infeet is 7'2", so 2.13 meters. Cast weight of 1 to 7 grams. It has a line rating of PE 0.4 to 0.8, and it's 1 to 4 kilograms. Very expensive rod, but is very good in the fact of when I get into the lures, I can flick such lightweighted plastics and lures and still get a good casting distance. I always have this paired up with 8 pound braid because it's my go-to and only 1 to 3 kilo rod. But I always just change the leader, so the leader will go between 8 pound to 4 pound, depending on what I'm fishing for. I never really go above 8. 8's more for the salt, and then the 6 and the 4, that's more for the freshwater. If I know there's a lot of structure, I will just put it to 8, but it mainly just depends on whereabouts the structure is. Because if I'm fishing somewhere that has a lot of structure, I want to be able to hook the fish, bring the fish in. It depends on the fish that I'm chasing. If I'm chasing something like bass, I'll keep it to like the 6 to 8 pound leader range. They're up close in the structure and they can just bang, take you straight in. But we'll move over to the next rod. So this is a bait cast outfit. It's a Daiwa Ed X paired up with a Daiwa Tula 150 HS spool. It's 1.83 meters in length, has a cast weight of 7 to 21 grams, and has a line rating of 4 to 7 kilograms. Great little rod. Haven't had a problem with this. The main issue that I have had with it is with the Tatula and figuring out the right braid to put onto it. So I've got that spooled up with 50 pound braid. It's a bit excessive, but I find the 50 pound braid, after everything that I have tried, is one of the best braids I can use on the Daiwa Tatula. Leader wise, only goes between 20 to 30 pound leader. This rod's just for like flicking some top water lures, some lures for bass. It's like this little prawn imitation. Even I'll use in an estuary system chasing flathead. It has a good bunch of purposes. Yet to catch a fish on it, but it's like the Daiwa infeet where you cast out depending on the lure that you're using. So one that has a lot of movement in it, like a spinner, you can feel all the movement going through it. So it is good because when you're reeling the spinner, you can feel the blades moving through the whole line, and then you can also feel when you get tiny pecks, so you know that you're doing the right speed, everything like that. So the last rod, when it comes to freshwater fishing, is a 13 Fishing Elite Black paired up with a Daiwa PT 150H BK. That just has 25 pound braid on that one. It's 2-piece. It's 7'4", so it is definitely a good thing that it's 2-piece because it is a long one. This is mainly for my cod fishing, or even if I'm going somewhere that has really big floodie. I've got some Pacific lures for floodie. I'll be putting them on this. So it has a cast weight of 40 and 130 grams. Sounds a lot for just a rod for cod, but I got this rod for 2 different purposes. I wanted a rod for cod and I wanted a rod that would get me the extra casting distance. It is comfortable, even though it's a 7'4" rod. It is a comfortable rod to cast. It's more for open lakes. You can cast some smaller lures on it. You still do feel them. They just won't cast as far. So casting spinners or chatterbaits out for yellow belly, anything like that. You still do cast them. It won't be as far as it should, but you don't really backlash if you got the reel tuned to the right dial. It does the job. Honestly, can't complain. I barely do as much freshwater fishing as I do saltwater, but depends on where I'm fishing is the strength of the leader I will use. So if I'm fishing a lot of structure, I'll use a heavier pound leader. It all depends on everything like that. So move on to lures. So when it comes to lures for cod, I have some very big lures and then some just spinners, nothing too majorly excessive. I've got 2 diver lures. They're pretty big. I can't remember the exact size of them, but they're 2 chasebait lures. I think they're the Cod Slayer and the green and the red colour. They do cast out a fair distance. They dive. Can't remember how deep they dive. As I said, it's been a while since I used them. But they do the job. It's very big, so you get attraction from the big cod. You have to hook up on them. I think I've used them once or twice though, so I'm more like using spinners. I want to hook up on the spinner. So when it comes to spinners, I have a range. I have Bassman, the TT Tornado twin spin. So I like using the Bassman if I know that there's yellow belly and cod. It's more of a mixture of the in-between for both of those species. They come pre-rigged with a stinger. You can't really ask for much else. They do the job. Mainly these though. These will get put on the Daiwa Ed rod with the width of the Tula. The Tornado twin spins, I'll put these straight on the 13 fishing rod. Very big profile. It has 2, I think they're Colorado spin blades. A lot of movement, noise through the water. I've had a couple of hits on these, but once again, it's a similar thing to a lot of things. They're my go-to to throw when everything's gone quiet. So when everything goes quiet, I'll chuck this on, and then it's you forget that you get a hit moment, and you forget to set the hook a lot. A Surface Walker by McGrath Lures, which is this one here. This one I'll put on the 13 Fishing Elite rod. This is mainly for cod. Not sure where else would hit it, honestly. It's got such a movement that cod would absolutely love. It goes to the water and it kind of walks a bit, as you can tell with the bib there. Does cast out a fair distance. I think it weighs 34 grams. Get the gear right. If you get the gear ratio set right, you can cast this out a fair distance. Does go alright at Lake Hilton. I tried it at Lake Hilton once at night time, and I did manage to get a lot of attention. Moving on to some more top water lures. So I have a couple of the chase baits, Drunken Mullets. They're actually a very good lure. They're double jointed, so they move like that. The tail bit spins. They make a lot of noise. When you want to get the bite in, I find, small creeks, they're very good to use. Same thing as the Drunken Mullet Junior. It's not double jointed, it's a bit smaller, but the tail does spin. It's kind of your typical American bass style top water lure. where it's just the tail has that flicking motion and it makes a fair bit of noise and it gets a fish attraction. They do work in Australia, so I haven't had a problem with them. I think I've had one hookup. I think it was like a Reddy, and that was just local. That was just in Geelong, and that was with one of my old rods, which I also lost in Geelong because of I'd say easy 80 plus centimetre carp. Picked up some corn that I was throwing out, and the rod kind of went in the water. Never managed to find it, so that was a good rod. I had a very long time. So my next top water lure is a little cicada. For bass, trout might even go for it. It's made by Chase Baits. It's a Chase Baits cicada. It's very good. It has a squishy body, so that way the body doesn't really get damaged if you hook up to a massive fish. It's got a skirted tail. The wings push through the water like that, so that's where your noise comes from. You can walk it like a dog, you can straight reel it. There's many different ways to work a cicada. One of my last top water lures I use is, I believe this is just the TT Frog. It's got the skirted tails. I'm not too advanced when it comes to freshwater fishing because I know people snip them off. I'll just leave them. Has a squishy body. So the whole idea behind that is when you fill them up, when you cast them with water, the body gets water in it, and you just squeeze it to get some water out, and then you go back to casting. Has two hookup points. I think I've fished this for probably about, honestly, not that long. I think like maybe even half an hour the whole time I've had it, but it does make a good motion through the water. It's not like all the other top water lures where it, has something to make it go. It's more of like you can either just twitch it, walk the dog. It's more of just a subtle noise compared to everything else where they have a lot of noise with all the movement and all the bibs, all the like spinning aspects. So when it's hard to explain, but when you're fresh and your top water when it comes to fresh, there's certain times when you want to throw on something that makes noise and something that doesn't want to make noise. So that's that good lure. It's a frog imitation, so everything goes for it. That will cast out. It'll make the motion, but it won't really make the noise unless you make it make the noise. By far, one of my go-to lures though, when it comes to any form of fresh, I'll have two different sizes, is the stunt jumpers. These are very versatile. I mean, I think you can catch bass on them. They're good for yellow belly. The real bigger ones, they're good for cod. Even this size would be good for cod if you're in the right area for the cod. I think this is the size that's best for bass. Even I think a trout might go for them. Depends on how big the trout are, because I think that's the main reason why I got this one. Very easy to use lure. You cast them out, and it's like any subsurface diver. You literally just reel, and it'll do all the motion. It's got a little weight in it, as you can hear, so it makes a bit of noise. Also makes it easier, a bit better for casting because you get that bit extra distance because they've got that weight movement in it, and you don't even have to let them sit there or nothing. It's literally just cast them out and you straight reel, and it'll do its motion, and they have very nice movement through the water. Very attractive. I think every angler that fishes fresh, especially in the Australia region, has stunt jumpers or has used stunt jumpers, and definitely has hooked up on a stunt jumper. We have this chubby, I think this is a bit more shallow diving than the smaller stunt jumpers. Very similar, has a nice action, has a weight system in there for extra casting distance. This one I'll put on my 1 to 3 kilo rod. I think this is mainly more for your fishing small creeks, fishing for bass, even redfin, because it's such a smaller profile. Redfin might even go for it. It just depends whereabouts you're fishing for them. Tassie Devils. So I have some of the Tassie Devil spoons, and then I have the good old traditional Tassie Devil. I think they're the blades. These are a killer trout lure. Good for trolling, good for casting, even when you want that extra distance, because there's so much, you can get them with so much weight in them. And because they're not rigged from the actual blade, they do move up and down the line. So it does make it act like it's got a rear weighted system for extra distance. So the way you rig these though, because I know back in the day you could just tie something straight on, but they changed it. Treble. So you feed the line through the blade, then you have this little bowl. You'll feed the line through that, and then you'll tie the treble on to the bottom. So that way, the idea I think is that's meant to stop the blade from keep contacting with the treble and protect the knot. A lot of people will change the trebles out for a double assist hook. I just like using the trebles. You have an extra hookup point. I'm not going to change that. Extra hookup point's always a good thing. Sometimes you can lose fish because of the treble, because of the trout's jaw. But I haven't had a problem. Even redfin will go for them. I personally haven't had a problem, so I'm going to keep sticking to the trebles. I have a bunch of different spinners, traditional spinners. So it's just got your one blade on it, your one tight end point, and it's all just one whole thing. So you just tie a unit onto there, cast them out. They get good casting distance because of all the weight features behind it, and then you just constant reel them. It's like using a spoon. And then we have our double clutches. So these are in the smaller size. I like using the smaller size because there is a bit more chance that you will get a hook up. Might not be from an absolute keeper of a fish, but when you're fishing fresh, not knowing much about fresh, a double clutch is always a go-to. You can do all your typical motions. Everyone knows how to work these. You can just constant reel them. You can do tweaks. You can do sweeps, pause, sweep, pause. I just like doing the constant reel and then pause, let it rise, and then reel again. I like using the smaller size for the fact of if there is fish there, I want that extra chance of, even if it's a tiny little fish, I want that extra chance of making sure I hook up to that fish. As I said, I'd barely get to go out to the fresh. So when I go out to the fresh, I want every chance possible that I'm going to get, if I get a bite, there is more chance that I'm going to hook up to a fish. The same thing as using the diving poppers. My last Hit Tackle Talk video, I want the extra hookup points. I want to make sure I get that fish. So that's why a lot of the times, if they come pre-rigged with trebles, I'll keep them pre-rigged trebles. A lot of people change them, but I'll just keep them pre-rigged because I want that extra hookup points. Bass spinners. So these are the Daiwa Ultimate Bass Special. They're half an ounce. This one has 2 silver, this one has 2 gold. You get to actually hook up on them, but you do cast them out on that Daiwa edge rod that I use for bass. They do cast a fair distance, and you do feel everything through the water. With these, you can put a plastic onto them. I like keeping them without a plastic because it's got such a nice skirt on it. My theory is the skirt should do what it's meant to do and attract the fish if there's meant to be, if they want that extra bit of fluffiness. There's a couple of them, especially the Bassman ones, I wasn't a massive fan of when it comes to the small spinners, so I did cut down some plastics and attach the plastics to them. But the Daiwa ones, they seem to be really good, even with the detail and the head of the jig. Very good lures. With these, same thing as your Tornado twin spins, same thing with your big Bassman lures. Any spinner, make sure you just do a uni knot to the top of the wire. If you do a loop knot, you're going to have to wrap some line around those 2 points there. But uni knot, I seem to not have a problem with. It doesn't slip, it doesn't fall through anywhere. It stays on where it's meant to stay on, and I have not had a single problem with that one since. Now I've got some tiny jig heads here. They're Gamakatsu. They're 1/22 of an ounce, so they're 1 to 3 grams. They're hook size 1. So these jig heads, I'll throw around on some Strike Tiger plastics, which I'll get into. They only go on my 1 to 3 kilo rod. I'll throw them in some family-friendly lakes around Melbourne, because I know the size of the fish isn't absolutely massive. They're good for creeks, good for small water systems. Even the family-friendly lakes around Melbourne, I'll throw them into them, because a lot of the time, the fish are not always pushed to the centre. They're a lot of the time in close, so you don't really need that long distance. They work nicely with the Strike Tiger plastics. A nice sink rate, so the plastic looks natural. Haven't had a problem with them. They got some keepers on them. The keepers seem to do the job. I've had some small jig heads where the keepers are a bit terrible. But that's so far the best one that I managed to find, and I think I just got them from Complete Angler in Geelong. And they were $13.95, so $400, and you really can't complain. They do the job. They got a strong hook. The keepers work very good. That's the main thing you want from a jig head, especially that small. Because a lot of time when you get that small, you got strange keepers on them. They don't keep the actual plastic on them. The hooks can break very quickly, bend out. There's a lot of different things that can happen when it comes to that. For example, I've got these Hayabusa, I think that's how you pronounce it, jig heads. They're 0.75 grams. These I have used once or twice. I'm not a massive fan of them. So the way these are, they have the hook up point, and then underneath the hook up point, they have just a straight through line, and that's the idea where you're meant to put the soft plastic. In theory, it's good, but it's not the best thing when you're fishing in wind, because when you're pulling it back against the current with the wind, it pulls plastic straight off, and I think I lost a fair bit of plastics. So that's why I managed to find these, and I'm glad I did. So when it comes to soft plastics, I use Daiwa, Z-Man, and Strike Tiger. At the moment, I've been going more towards Strike Tiger because their plastics are actually genuinely insane. I always wondered about them, and then one day I managed to find them in the store. I think it was Complete Angler, Dandenong. Bought a couple packets, and they're very good. For the size, for the scent on them, for the flake of them, they're honestly, I'd say, better for freshwater than using Z-Mans or your dive bait junkies. For the fact of they're ready for you straight out of the packet. They're made for small fish as well. Big fish could take them, but the fact of you got that range of not just a big fish taking something like on a 2.5 inch minnow, like you can use a 1.5 inch grub that the Strike Tigers make, and you can still manage to hook up to a decent sized fish. So that's why I mainly use Strike Tiger at the moment. So when it comes to these, we'll start off with probably the most renowned soft plastic, which is the 1 inch nymph. So that is in the gum beetle colour. Not sure how good you can see that one there. And then we also have the 1 inch nymph in the orange spawn. These plastics, they come pre-scented. You might be sitting there thinking, oh, it's 1 inch, but you get the right size jig heads, which are like these ones here. I might use these when it comes to the nymph, purely only the nymph, but I might have to figure out a way, even if it's just super gluing it to the actual keeper, I think is what they would still probably call it. So it stays on the hook, but they're very good plastic, very good imitation. I reckon it's by far one of the most renowned plastics. You can get carp on them, redfin, bass, trout. It's all just picking and matching the right colours, but they are honestly probably one of the best soft plastics going around for freshwater species, in my opinion. The next one is a 1.8 inch mud eye, and I got this in the black and gold colour because I figured it's a nice colour for trout. So it's once again a good imitation there. Trout would go for it, reddies would go for it, bass would go for it. You can't complain. It's one of them plastics where anything would look at it and want to take it straight away. I have 2 packets of grubs. I have a 1.5 inch in pumpkin seed and I have a 1.5 inch in black caviar. Now the pumpkin seed is like an orangey colour. I haven't used these ones that much. Haven't really fished anywhere that has the right colour to fish them, but that colour really stood out to me, so that's the main reason why I got that colour. But I thought this colour would work good, especially for redfin and trout, which is a black caviar. It's black and it has like red flake through it. Trout would go for them just for the fact that they're black with a nice little flake for them. It's very attractive to a trout. So you really can't complain with that. A lot of people do catch some good fish on the striped tiger plastics. I've had a couple bites on them, but I've not managed to hook up. But the more as a fish fresh, the more and more I actually hope to hook up. So when it comes to bait for freshwater species, I'll use corn myself, but that's because I like to fish carp. If I'm using bait, I want to be able to clean out the waterway. Carp are a strong fighting fish, so it's always good fun, especially when you use the fish in salt water. The fish can fight a lot different to the fresh. And carp are probably the closest thing that would, if you got the light enough rod as well, they'll take you for runs. But I'll use power bait, I'll use worms, I'll use bread, and I'll use corn. A lot of the time I'm just using a running sinker rig on everything, unless it's bread. I'll just use an unweighted system with a straight hook, put the bread on, and it'll eventually sink as it gets wet. With the power bait, if it's a floating power bait, which this is now, I'll use a small pea-sized sinker connected to just right above the hook, to help it a little sink that tiny bit, but it's still not too far down in the water. Leaders. So at the moment, all I could find was my Black Magic leaders. So I use Black Magic in the 20 to 30. All the other leaders, so everything from the 4 to 8 pound, so the 4, 6, 8 pound there, the Daiwa leaders. I have a 20 and 30 in Daiwa leaders as well. I have a 12 and a 16 and a 10. And I use the 6 all the way up to 80 pound in the Black Magic. The main reason why I still have Black Magic for fresh, I find that the water can be dirty enough. The leader's not going to make too much of a difference. It does sit nicely on the guides of that 13 fishing rod, so I don't have a problem if I go too heavy, or if they change their leader, I'll probably just only use Daiwa leader. But that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm not too advanced when it comes to fresh, but I do have a bit of knowledge. The next one will probably be a light setup, tackle run through video, going through all my light gear. Yeah, we'll see you on the next one.